Chair, it seems that at this point, we do not have any testifiers here in Hilo, Pohoa, or via Zoom.
None here in Kona, so we may proceed with the agenda items.
Mr. Clerk, if you could read in Communication 320.
Communication 320, requested presentation by Jordan Lerma of Nene Research and Conservation regarding the current situation affecting our native Nene population, from Councilmember Susan L.K. Leloy, dated May 31, 2023.
Please, a motion to close file on Communication 320. I have a motion by Mr. Inaba and a second by Ms. Kirkowitz. Actually, because this is my communication, if I could let the record reflect that I'll be handing this over to my vice chair, Ms. Kirkowitz.
Thank you. Let the record reflect that at 1:32 p.m. I have assumed the role of chair of this committee. Councilmember Leloy, this is your communication. Please introduce your guest presenter.
Yes, thank you. Today we have the pleasure of having Mr. Lerma here. He is a member of our community down in Keaukaha, and just to lay some foundation for my colleagues, over the course of maybe the last year, there's been a lot of activity down in Keaukaha which relates to the reestablishment of our local ias, our fish ponds in the area. My colleagues are probably reminded of an open space resolution that we passed for some of the ponds down in Keaukaha, and we also have members of community who have been doing pond restoration at Lokoaka. With that reestablishment of our open spaces in Keaukaha and the rehabilitation of our ponds, it's begun to invite a lot of our native plants and birds back to the area. And because of this, we've seen and has been reported by the newspaper some bird strikes. And as a community, the members began to put their heads together as to, what would we need to do in light of the great stewardship work that we're doing down in Keaukaha. The county as a whole and the support of the Open Space Fund and the stewardship monies that are kind of moving into community, it's actually really having an impact. And what we're seeing now is the need to start finding place and space for the reestablishment of our ponds, our native species that are returning back, and how we blend that together with the existing environment and community. And so I have the pleasure of turning it over now to Mr. Lerma, who has put together a presentation for members of the dais, but also members of the community, which I hope at the end of this presentation and leading into the next bill that I have on the agenda, that this information is basically a community-driven, data-based solution. And I hope I can get my colleagues' support. Mr. Lerma, go ahead.
You're going to have to hit the button at the base to activate your mic.
All right. Thank you so much, Council Member Leloy, and thank you, fellow council members, for allowing me to come here and speak today. I want to introduce myself. My name is Jordan Lerma. I'm born and raised in Hilo. Graduated from Kamehameha in 2009 and went to the continent for college, where I studied finance and economics. I work full-time as a wildlife biologist, mainly studying whales and dolphins, but more importantly, using technology and using data to drive legislation to increase the protections for native species around Hawaii. Earlier this year, I started a 501c3 nonprofit called Nene.org, and the main goal is to increase community participation in conservation. Nene is a great species. 60 to 70% of the population are banded. So each individual Nene has a unique band code, and from that band code we can learn a lot about their life histories, where they're banded, how old they are, where have they been seen in the past. And through this, we were able to build the connection with the community. Many in the community see Nene all the time, take photos of them, but don't have that connection because that information wasn't there. So in January, we started this nonprofit, got all the information from U.S. Fish and Wildlife, from Volcanoes National Park, from Hakalau, from DLNR, put it into one database, and provided that to the community. To date, we have given the information, we have given talks at local organizations, we have given talks to local schools, and are providing the data set to our keiki. I have a 2-year-old, so I'm a little biased, but she can recognize Nene really well now. But we want to build that connection with the local community, and we feel like Nene are a great species to facilitate that with other protected species that need our attention. So like I said, many Nene are banded, 60 to 70% on the Big Island. To date, we have 500 or over 500 documented Nene sightings on Hawaii Island alone. And we share these sightings also with our federal and state partners. So for example, last week, DLNR called us looking for a specific Nene, and we were able to locate where a community member actually saw it in Waikoloa and respond. It had a broken wing, and we were able to get down there, capture it, and deliver it to Hawaii Wildlife Center. What I'm trying to say is that this is a community effort. It isn't just one particular organization, one nonprofit, one individual. We all need to work together, and that's very, very important. Our Nene database is growing very quickly. We have banding records for over 10,000 Nene at this point, ranging from 1984 to present day. We have really good partners that share this information with us. We don't do any banding, but our federal and state partners do a lot of banding. We have 5,000 total sightings, and from these sightings, we are able to better understand where exactly Nene are spending their time. How often are they spending in particular areas, like local waka or Keaukaha? And from this data, we've been able to identify 30 Nene that call Keaukaha home. They are not seen anywhere else. And that's pretty special, given that we see some at Queens Marketplace flying to Volcano and back pretty regularly. And like I said, this is a group effort. We have over 600 contributors at this point who have sent in photos of banded Nene to us to match. I wanted to share the population trends for Nene because I think it's really important. We often hear that Nene are doing really well, and compared to 100 years ago, they are. 100 years ago, there was less than 50, and nowadays it's in the 3,000 to 4,000 range. But when you hear people say that Nene are doing good and recovering well, all I mean is Kauai is the only island where the population is increasing. Maui is down 42%. Hawaii Island's been growing at 0% for the past 4 years. There's probably no Nene left on Molokai. So Kauai is really the only island that's doing well. And the reason why is that, well, they spend a lot of time on state and federal managed lands, which helps, but they also have county ordinances that protect Nene from stuff like feral cat feeding and habituation to that types of things. They are really quick to react when Nene are getting struck by cars and putting up new signs. And I hope that we can do that same way here. If you look back in 2016 on this graph and the information you have in front of you, Kauai and Hawaii Island were at the same level in 2014 and 2016. And Kauai just kept increasing where Hawaii Island remained flat. It's my dream and goal to hopefully mimic what's happening on Kauai. And with that, I want to move into the why. Why is this happening? What is Kauai doing that we aren't doing, and what can we copy? And I want to warn you that the next slide is graphic, but I wanted to introduce this Nene here. This is C10. She's a 20-year-old female. The state of Hawaii spent $18,000 to bring her from Kauai to the Big Island. And unfortunately, on March 4th, she was hit by a car. This was the second fatality this year, and the 8th in the past 3 years, in the same stretch of road we were going to discuss, and you guys will vote on in a few moments after this presentation. And while collisions are a major factor, I also want to touch on habitat loss and non-native predators because they contribute to the collision issue. So just a warning that the next slide is graphic, and it comes from DoCare. These are DoCare's photos. So this is what was collected of C10. I should say that this photo was the day before this happened. So this is within 1 day. And it's hard for me to look at and hard for Kamiko to look at because we've developed relationships with these birds as they spend a lot of time where we are working to restore our native local i'a. And I want to touch on habitat loss and non-native predators. But before that, I want to go into giving you guys a broad perspective of the area we're talking about. There's an interactive version of this map available on our website, nene.org, and you can zoom in and interact with the map and see all of the things in detail. But the red pins there are community sightings. Those are photos that people send to us, and it shows where Nene are spending their time. And the skull is where Nene are unfortunately hit by cars. 9 Nene have died since 2021. And the little chick emoji is where the Nene have nested. So there's a correlation between where Nene nest and where they're getting hit by cars. And this is likely because during that period of time, Nene are flightless. They actually lose their flight feathers. So they end up having to cross roads to get to, in the case of C10, to James Keaukaha Park in order to feed on grass and unfortunately take handouts from park goers. I'll be upfront, that's also an issue that we're dealing with, making sure that we have better signage, working with Maurice at County Parks to make sure we increase education and outreach in those locations that facilitate these negative events. And I want to talk about collisions because that's what we're here for. Like I said, 9 Nene since 2021. I want to talk about the historical context and what we've been doing to try to address this problem before coming to you today, understanding that your time is valuable and we want to make sure we as a community are working with you guys in order to address these issues. What can we do to help you guys do your jobs better? I wanted to share these photos. In the bottom right, you can see the Nene in front of the bus. That was C10 with her 2 goslings this year. And then in the back is her mate, 59K, who was also hit by a car, but thankfully was only semi-injured and didn't die. And the photo on the left shows the 2 Nene, adjacent to the road. And it kind of goes to show how close they are and where they typically forage for food along the highway. If you look further in the background of that photo, you can see a truck over the shoulder lane. And that's another issue we've been dealing with as well, looking at stuff like vertical delineators and repaving that road so that cars aren't driving over the shoulder lane. And we did meet with Mayor Roth, with Public Works, with Parks, HPD, and Fire to try to get a better assessment of what else can be done. And we've come to this conclusion that we should try the easy stuff first, speed limits, road signs, radar feedback signs, before moving to stuff like speed tables and speed humps. 30 miles an hour to 25 miles an hour doesn't seem like a big change. There's been 2 studies, one in 2018 and one that was published in 2023, undertaken by the Insurance Institute for Highway Safety. So when you buy a new car, the folks who give you a safety rating essentially funded 2 studies to see what would happen in Seattle and Boston, both in the city center and in the suburbs, when they changed the speed limit from 30 miles an hour to 25 miles an hour. And in both studies, they found a significant decrease in the odds of a collision with a vehicle. In Seattle, the last study showed that the odds of a crash fell 17%, just a 5-mile-an-hour reduction in the speed. But it also increased the compliance with the posted speed limit. There were more people driving the actual posted speed limit after they reduced that. I also want to talk about this chart on the right. It's a braking and stopping distance. And going from 30 miles an hour to 25 miles an hour is a noticeable increase in the amount of time that one has to make a decision. And I'm going to go back to this slide here. In the top right, you can see that Nene's head poking through the car tires. In the site where Nene are often being hit, there's an embankment, and Nene are popping up. And drivers that have to react have very little time. So when we talk about braking and stopping, a speed limit of 25 makes a lot more sense, especially the fact that Kumiko, who's going to be talking about this later, has volunteers coming up the same embankment. So it's not just a Nene problem. There's kids across the park that are crossing the street as well. And I hate reading from slides, but I couldn't help but put this quote in from this 2023 paper, that higher speeds make crashes more likely by reducing the time a driver has to react and increasing the distance required to stop the vehicle. Higher speeds also increase the energy involved in a crash, raising the odds of an injury. And that's something that's very important to think about. not just for Nene, but for people who use the road, pedestrians, bikers, keiki. So when we think about why this is happening, Nene are often moving to new areas to nest. And part of that is because the population has increased over the past 10 to 20 years from 500 to 1,000, Nene seek out new locations to eat and forage and nest. One obvious thing, or one thing that's not very obvious, is that habitat destruction isn't always really, really easy to see. This photo here was taken at Liliuokalani Park, where historically Nene have nested, and they have largely abandoned the site altogether, largely because people are feeding feral cats, and subsequently mongoose are eating those cats. So the populations of non-native mammalian predators is increased, and it's very sad to see Nene being displaced from this safer habitat to places further down in Keaukaha. We've also just been involved with the stuff at Queens Marketplace with the cat habituated feeding. We see Nene flying from Volcano to Queens Marketplace just to eat cat food and fly back to Volcano. So when we think about our actions and these types of habitats, it's not always bulldozing lots, it's not always golf courses or hotels. There are really small, minute actions in our community that we can address to help protect native species. And I want to talk about what we've tried already. We've been in the paper a few times trying to raise awareness about this issue. We've been really vocal on social media. We've reached over 30,000 people in Hawaii based on our analytics, over 100,000 views, specifically about C10, about getting this Nene being hit in Keaukaha. And now I want to get to what we've been doing to try and measure this issue. And at our organization, we have a strong belief that if we can't measure it, we can't improve it. And we wholeheartedly believe in that. So we set out to figure out how fast people were driving along Kalani on Ole Street. And the cheapest speed feedback radar sign was over $1,000. And as a small nonprofit that just started this year, we don't have that kind of funding. So we innovated. We built one. And this unit costs about $300. It's the same type of unit that they use in cop cars to get your speed as you're speeding and they pull you over. Not that you guys speed. The version 2 of this actually connects to the internet and can wirelessly transmit speeds in real time. So if we think about how fast are people driving past school zones or critical infrastructure or critical Nene habitat, we can tell you. And we built it in a way that it's easily mountable to existing infrastructure. And we hope that we can continue to do stuff like this to improve data collection in the community and make roads safer. And here's a picture of version 1. And then Nene actually came and checked it out, which is kind of cool. Here's a better picture of it from the back. So we mounted it in a few different places. This map shows where we mounted these different radar sensors. And some of them are outside of what we're going to discuss in Bill 51. But we wanted to get an overall picture of how people are using the entire stretch of road. And the scary fact is across the street from Kumuola, the Kamehameha School's fish pond, we recorded the highest speed on that road at 88 miles an hour. And that was during the day in a 25-mile-an-hour zone. That was crazy. Across the street from the park there at 4 miles, between 4 miles and the restaurant at Seaside, we recorded the top speed of 56 miles an hour. So that's a 30-mile-an-hour zone. We had 11 days of survey effort using this radar sensor. All the days in red show days in which 50% or more of the drivers driving past the sensor were exceeding the speed limit or non-compliant. And we had one day where there was more than 50% compliance. And it's very interesting, and I'll show you the breakdown of that day. Of the 5,000 cars that driven past the sensors in the 11 days that we collected data, over 80% were non-compliant with the speed limit, which is insane when we think about, I have a 2-year-old. My kid uses that park We have friends and family that utilize that park. Kumiko and her volunteers are adjacent to this road. There are residents along this street, folks going to the restaurant, folks using the parks. It's scary to think about this is what's happening, and we're happy that we're able to measure it in this way and bring this issue to you guys. So I want to dive in specifically to certain days. And I will caveat, all of this data, all the code used to generate all of these graphs is publicly accessible. So if anyone has staff that wants to dive into the data, more than happy to share it. You can analyze it for yourself. That's a big important part of what we're doing. It's all open source. So like I said, across the street from 4 miles, between 4 miles and Seaside Restaurant, the max speed was 56 miles an hour. And that red dotted line is the speed limit. So as you can see in this distribution, the majority of cars driving past the speed radar sign were violating, were non-compliant with the speed limit. And this is right next to where C10 was killed in March. This was right where 59K was hit just a couple weeks ago. And if we go back, if we think about the calendar view I showed, we had one green day. So what do you guys think happened on that green day? Someone put out a mobile speed sign, which is, no one wants to take credit for it. So I actually, still to this day, I have no idea who put it out there. But as you can see on the same type of graph, the majority of cars were on the left side, indicating that there are things we can do. And we want to be transparent that lowering the speed limit isn't the sole solution to this problem. It's an important part of the solution, but we need to all work together, find solutions like this in order to keep our roads safer. And with that, I want to hand it over to Kumiko, who was instrumental in bringing this issue to our attention. She's contributed data from 2021 and on, and was very important in getting the petition syndicated throughout the community. I think we have over 900 signatures at this point from folks in the local community supporting these actions. So I'm going to hand it over to Kumiko.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Kumiko Hasegawa Madison from Hilo. Thank you very much for allowing me to be here today. That's my husband, Patrick. We started this project in January 2021, but we were kind of discreetly doing it, just two of us. And then only since last May, we started to publicly announce what we're doing. We've been spreading our word through Instagram and Facebook only, but just recently we have started a website. So here's the area. Lokoaka is the largest fish pond in Keaukaha, but there are a lot of smaller, much smaller adjacent ponds, but most of them are overgrown with invasive grasses and shrubs. And next door to us, there's Kumola Marine Science Education Center, and they have restored their ponds. And then there's another one closer to the ocean, Haleolono Fish Pond. That one is managed by Edith Kanakole Foundation, and they started their restoration work in 1996. And Kumola started theirs in 2015, and we started ours in 2021. So Lokoaka area, the fish pond, the major fish pond, and the adjacent ones, that's about 60 acres. That's huge. But smaller ones are, like I said, mostly overgrown. And that's what we were working on to restore the lokoi'as and the wetland around those little ponds, which is the crucial and critical habitat for our water birds. There are maybe about 15 coots like Ke'okeo, and that's all there is. We should have more coots there. And then stilts, Ae'o, they're not there. But we have seen one about 10 years ago. So there used to be a suitable habitat there. And that's what motivated us to start this project, to bring the stilts back to this area. But only 3 months after we started this project, only 3 months after we started to remove the grass, the invasive grass, Nene came back. And it was a family of Nene. Unfortunately, the mother was killed. And then this past winter, a pair nested and they had 2 goslings. But like Jordan told you, the mother got hit and got killed. And the father and a remaining gosling, I mean, one of the goslings died before the accident. So the surviving gosling and the father got relocated to a sanctuary. But the father is back in Hilo, and then he got hit very recently. So it's a very dangerous road for Nene that cross the road quite frequently, not just during the nesting season in the winter, but even in the flocking season, they cross the street. And we have started a petition. One of our supporters started it, actually. And then the Girl Scouts made the petition online. And they not only started the petition, they come to help restore the pond. They're wonderful.
Yeah, I just want to reiterate the fact that restoration efforts are happening all over the place, and as Nene are going to be moving around and in search of new locations as they are displaced from their native habitat. In the historical record, Nene did use these coastal sites, and one thing I didn't mention is that nesting success rates are significantly higher at coastal sites compared to high elevation sites. Temperatures lower, temperatures are warmer. Goslings usually die when exposed to extreme cold, which is where they typically are at high altitude on Mauna Kea and Mauna Loa. And these types of restoration efforts are rehabilitating the area where Nene once were. And it's amazing that they're finding their way back down there. But at the same time, we need to make sure that we, as a community, can facilitate that transition by changing speed limits, making sure we have infrastructure in place so that humans and native wildlife can coexist. And it's nice when the solutions also protect other road users.
Yeah, so this is what we do. As you can see.
That's me, for the record.
Yeah. Look how much grass there is. That's the pond, part of the pond. I mean, majority of the pond is like that. So we have to remove the grass from the water. And on the land, too, look how tall the grass is. It's really difficult to remove them. And we have to make sure to remove all the roots and the stems that are underground as well. We have to kill the grass completely. We don't want to use herbicide. And we trap mongoose. We have trapped and killed probably 200 or more of them.
It's also good to know. It's also good that in case another skunk gets out, there's traps down there. We'll catch it.
Yeah. So these are the species we're trying to protect. Auku'u, the night heron. We have Hawaiian goose hybrids. The stilts we're trying to bring back. In last May, a pair stopped by. They didn't stick around, but they did stop by. So there is definitely hope. And then Hawaiian coots, we have them, but their population should increase. And we have migratory shorebirds and migratory ducks. And then, of course, Nene came back. And on the left, you can see 2 maps of our island. And the one on the side with a lot of pink, that's all invasive species habitat now. The native habitat is gone. And then the black and white maps shows the wetland areas. What's the lower bottom map shows the wetland that's been lost, and that's mostly in Hilo. Some have been just filled, and some, a few that's remaining are very degraded. And then this is a very recent photo. This group came from Oahu, from Mililani. It's a church group that came to help us. They were here on this island only for a couple of days, but this is something that they wanted to do. It's wonderful. And look how close we are to the road. They didn't work. This is the after the work group photo, but then they walked very close to the road. And this is a charter school, Keaukaha Charter School, near Hilo. Their sixth graders came twice so far, and they have to cross the road from the parking lot at James Keaukaha Beach Park, and they also work close to the road. And here are some visitors from Japan helping us. We have had quite a few Japanese visitors that came to volunteer with us. And we had some visitors from the continent as well. That's the list of the states that they came from. And then we have quite a few organizations that support us. Hawaiʻi Tourism Japan, Rotary Club of Hilo sent us some members, yes, and Keaukaha Charter School, and Hawaii Island Girl Scout Troop 25, they did the petition for us too, not just volunteering, hands-on volunteering, but they did the petition. And UH Hilo's new course called Kuleana and Community, they came to help us. Youth Challenge Academy Hilo, Cub Scouts, Church of Christ of Latter-day Saints from Mililani, Oahu. And then this month, actually, from tomorrow for a couple of days, the Road Less Traveled youth group will be helping us. And then a halau from California will be coming. Washington, Seattle, Washington will be coming too. And in October, we have a bird festival in Hilo, and there will be some hula halaus coming to help us, and they'll be coming with DLNR staff.
And the one thing I want to leave you guys with is that there's a lot of people working really hard in this area. And without the support of the City Council to change speed limits, to address these issues, we don't want to see more Nene die. And it's hard to work in these restoration projects knowing that we're bringing in more native species and watching them get hit by cars. When my kid sees me down there in the pond pulling grass, I want to make sure that she sees that effort being reflected in the number of species that she's going to be able to see when she's older. Hawaii is the extinction capital of the world. There's 2 native birds on Kauai that will probably be gone this year. The ala is no longer with us in the wild. Nene were our hope, and despite that, we can't give up on them. So I thank you guys for letting us present today. It's really important, and we're happy and honored to be able to share this information with you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jordan. Thank you, Kumiko. I'm just gonna let you guys ask the questions. I think they make a compelling argument and provide a lot of great data, along with the reason why I advanced the bill that's on the agenda following this is to demonstrate that this is a real community effort. This was not something that I just thought up on my own. And as they've demonstrated, this has been ongoing efforts for a while down in Keaukaha, you know, a place that is incredibly special for everyone. Thank you, Chair. I yield.
Thank you, Councilmember Leloy. Councilmember Evans.
Thank you. I'd like Steve Pause from the Public Works. That'd be all right. Ask a question about the, or do you want to wait till the next Bill 51?
Let's take any questions for Jordan and Kumiko now.
Okay.
And I'd like for them to stick around in the event that council members have questions related to their research and how that is used to inform the bill that we'll be discussing later.
Yes.
But
Okay,
any
thank you.
questions related to
Yes,
their
I do.
research?
So the first question is this property that you've been working on, who owns it? Was it under the jurisdiction of the state because it's below the high water mark? And did you have to get permission to get on the land?
Yes, it's state property, but the restaurant Seaside, the owner has the permit to operate and is responsible for that area.
Okay.
Kumiko and her husband Patrick actually worked at the restaurant, which is how they got involved in restoring that area.
Okay. Did the Division of Forest and Wildlife, I'm assuming, or did you get any support financially or through grants from the state? Nothing on this.
No, we're not funded at all. We would love to be funded eventually.
Okay. When the bird gets harmed, is there some process that information goes into some data bank or goes to the road department or goes to because it's an endangered, would it go probably the federal government? How does that play out when an animal gets harmed?
Yeah, it is very complicated because there's a lot of agencies involved in that process. Like you said, they are threatened species and they're federally protected. As of right now, the way the chain of command works is that when a Nene gets harmed, the call goes to DOFA, DLNR. DLNR will send out DoCare, and DoCare enforcement will take the information from all the parties involved. In the event of C10, HPD was actually informed as well because the car in question had expired plates and expired insurance and all that stuff. So in some circumstances, HPD gets involved. To the best of my knowledge, that information is summarized in a report that's due to the U.S. Fish and Wildlife every year. So it's not something that someone tallies up and syndicates to everyone in real time. It's something that just summarized at the end of the permitting year.
Okay, and my last question. Very impressed by your work, both of you. Thank you. The data collection thing, I think you got it right. If you can't measure it, you can't improve it. So I really like that. When you went to the county officials and you spoke to them, I'm assuming you had a lot of data to present. Were they receptive of your data collection and what you had brought to them?
They haven't responded to our emails yet. We did meet with Mayor Roth and we presented preliminary data from this. It was during our data collection period. So our meeting was on May 20th. So any data collected before May 20th was shared during that meeting. And unfortunately, we haven't heard back from any of the county officials in response to our data collection, our data, and our findings.
Okay, all right, thank you. Thank you, I yield.
Thank you, Councilmember Evans. Anyone else? Councilmember Kagiwara.
Thank you, Chair. Just wondering, have you had a chance to reach out to Big Island invasive species, especially since you're dealing with some invasive grasses, things like that? Is that a group that you guys have had a chance to reach out to?
Well, we haven't reached out to them yet.
Okay, they might be a good partner, or at least have some things they can suggest, maybe.
My partner is actually doing her master's at UH Manoa doing virology work with the native Akala. So she is working with BISC, mostly to find diseases and stuff, but yeah, it would be great to get more hands on deck to restore those areas.
All right, thank you for your work. I think this is a great example of what a community can accomplish when they work together for something they really care about. So looking forward to, learning more.
Councilmember Villegas.
Yes, I just thoroughly and wholeheartedly want to thank you for your work as well. It's ironic that the work of all those that have come before you have brought the Nene to the numbers and the close interactions, unfortunately, that then ensue with humans. And so there's this odd dichotomy of all the effort to bring them back and then negligence, and we as humans in our busy lives then continue to put them in danger. We have some similar things with the Native Hawaiian stilts at Kohaniki and when they're nesting. So I thank you for the work that you do and how you've taken this upon yourselves to be a champion for the Nene. And I wholeheartedly support, and I look to my council members who have the experience in this area on what the speed limits could be or should be in order to help mitigate the issue. And I am really hopeful that the Nene find the best habitats possible for them and that they continue to be teachers to us on how to slow down and how to pay attention and how to respect and cherish and prioritize the species that reside in the ecosystems that it is our responsibility to malama and ensure, as you said, are there for your keiki and your mo'opuna and those that come after us. So thank you. This just really kind of aligns with some of the comments spoken by gentlemen earlier today about our watersheds and the connections in the Ahupua'a systems. And so interesting, you said the Nene fly from volcano to then eat at these cat feeding stations. And I have a big heart for animals, but I also have big frustration with the feral cat colonies and invasive species right along with the mongoose and how they're devastating our native birds. And I think there is an imperative for action to be taken on that account. So thank you for your diligence and volunteerism and stepping in and holding that place. It is, what does Margaret Mead say? Never doubt the actions of a small community can make a difference, for that's the only thing that ever has. And you guys are exemplifying that. So thank you for your work. Appreciate you. I yield.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, there is a motion to close file on communication 320. All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries with 8 aye votes. Note for the record that, 7 aye votes. Note for the record that council members Caneli, Kleinfelder, and Kimball are excused. Moving on to bills for ordinances.
Is there any testimony for Bill 51? Hearing none, Bill 51 amends Chapter 24, Article 10, Division 1 of the Hawaiʻi County Code 1983, 2016 edition as amended relating to speed limits. Amends Section 24-256, Schedule 3 by adding Kaniana-Ole Street, James Keloha Park Access Road to Lele'ibi Street to decrease the speed limit from 30 to 25 miles per hour and removes the same from Section 24-256, Schedule 4. Introduced by Ms. Leloy.
Ms. Leloy.
Thank you, Chair. Motion to forward Bill 51 to Council with a favorable recommendation.
Thank you. There's a motion by Ms. Leloy, second by Ms. Galimba to forward Bill 51 to the Council with a favorable recommendation. Ms. Leloy, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. For my colleagues, first of all, I just want to appreciate each and every one of you in the wisdom of us adopting our council rules and procedures. We restructured our committees. And the brilliance of that was the opportunity to provide, a presentation such as this right in front of a community ask for a policy shift that we could then take action on. Before calling up Mr. Pauzi, I was just hoping Mr. Lerma and setting a little bit more foundation. We all know of the headaches that Kalaniana Ole had with that road for many, many years. But the section that they're talking about is beyond that construction work. And recently, the Department of Public Works continued to pave from the harbor all the way down to King's Landing, to the very end. And at that time, Jordan and Kumiko, you know, we started talking about, hey, they're already paving the road. What other things could we jump in on, such as striping, vertical delineators, those are those plastic tall pipes, restriping of bike paths, maybe skinning up the road, just looking at other alternatives that we could introduce while paving was going on. And hey, since you guys are there. And so Jordan, I just wanted you to take a few minutes to share a little bit about your meeting with the mayor, and what other alternatives we're trying to kind of implement at a very low cost before moving on to other more expensive treatments and visual kind of cueing and prompts that we could create on the road to help slow everybody down. Go ahead, Jordan.
Thank you. Yeah, so we met with Mayor Roth on May 22nd, and there were a lot of suggestions, and we've all come to the conclusion that basically we should work towards the cheapest, most easiest options toward in the direction of the more difficult, more expensive, more physical barriers that can slow people down. So there were a lot of solutions that were discussed, and the ones that Mayor Roth had sent an email to Parks and to Public Works were vertical delineators, so those plastic strips that would basically outline the shoulder lane so that cars would stay on the actual road and not over the shoulder lane. Increased enforcement, so police, HPD was also CC'd on that email to see if there was more enforcement action that could potentially increase compliance with this posted speed limit in that area. And we actually did write down that lowering the speed limit in that area was a solution, a possible solution to addressing this problem. And then after that, more expensive options included those speed feedback radar signs and making them more permanent, some that you see on a railroad or coming down Palisades. Installing those in areas where Nene have been historically hit by cars. And then after that, it's the speed tables. So, you know, those were the solutions that we discussed. And like I said previously, we received no response to that email from any of the people that were included on that email.
Thanks, Jordan. You know, I'm going to leave the rest of this to my colleagues. Mr. Pauzi's here. Steve, if you don't mind coming up. We kind of avoided each other a little bit because I didn't tell them this bill was coming, because I really wanted us to just kind of step into these spaces, listening to what community has done and how they're trying to engage policymakers and the administration to help them continue the good work that they're doing in community, and just trying to step through, as Jordan mentioned, the most inexpensive ways while we continue to blend nature with community. So Mr. Pauzi, if you don't mind coming forward. I know you didn't see that, well, you saw this, but you didn't know I was going to be advancing this. And I'll yield, I really will yield, because I know my colleagues have questions for Mr. Pauzi.
Good afternoon, Director.
Good afternoon, Steve Pauzi, Director for Public Works. Just to make a couple quick statements here, if you don't mind. So Councilmember Leloy and I did have a conversation about this yesterday. Didn't have a whole lot of background. I did spend some time with our traffic folks, and to be quite honest, I didn't realize there was as much data available as what was presented. I think it looks like it was some pretty good work. And also for the record, I did get an email from you on April 25th, Jordan, and I responded on the 26th of April. I was not aware of the meeting with the mayor. So I just want to kind of set the tone that there seems like there's an incredible opportunity here for collaboration. And the resources that Public Works has that could bring to the table, the incredible amount of work that you've already done. We're hiring in traffic, by the way, if you're looking for a job. Yeah. But an incredible amount of work, and I think Councilmember Leloy made the statement about science-based, data-based. I think we have a lot of information here to work with, and in conversations with our traffic folks, same thing where we had discussed going out and doing some traffic data collection ourselves, and obviously school is out, so that August-September timeframe would be the good time to go out and do that, do some speed studies, and I don't know, that was my thought coming in here today before I listened to the presentation. So I think there's opportunities here, and I think at least Public Works, the folks from the group that did the presentation, I think police is probably another one that should be part of this this overall collaboration. But yeah, I think this is all real good information and provides a really strong start to go forward. And I think Jordan again mentioned, there's a lot of options here. There's a lot of things in the toolbox. And I think exploring together in a collaborative manner would be a really good opportunity to try things, but at the same time to kind of do it in a scientific manner where we're looking at what the information is telling us and going forward to come up with good solutions.
Thank you, Director, for being here and your initial insights. Councilmember Evans, you have the floor.
Thank you. Wow, I thought I'd tell you just one quick story so you haven't been here very long. There used to be these donkeys that lived and were prolific around the Keaukaha Four Seasons, and so they lowered the speed limit to 45, which I still think it's 45 through there. But they had, going both directions, a sign that said donkey crossing. And so what dawned on me is that if in fact these fish ponds are truly habitat for these endangered species, I would think that the federal government and the state Department of Forest and Wildlife would be talking to us at the county level saying, this habitat is, we're going to put more money, resources, we're going to develop it. We expect an explosion and a lot more Nene to be there because we're giving them the habitat they need, that it might lend itself to what would that look like? Nene crossing, Nene habit area, slow down. That might be something that needs to be put on notice to people that are in the area. The other thing is, I do agree with the idea of the police department because it sounds like it's a straightaway. I mean, if they caught someone going 80 miles an hour or 55 or 60 mile an hour on this road, it may be part of it is it's a straightaway. So how do you mitigate and slow down traffic just with Nene there or not? It sounds like it's a attractive nuisance maybe because it is a straightaway. And then the third thing is I was curious because I have an issue in my community where we need to lower the speed limit. But is it this kind of data and this type of equipment that is being used, is that something that your traffic folks would accept as reliable? That's something that they'd be willing to look at?
Well, I guess as the science and engineer person, no data are bad data, right? We can always do something with what has been collected. I think that at least what I'm seeing, it looks like really good starting point. And, you know, the work that our traffic folks were doing with both a speed study as well as a count, it would fit right in nicely, and I think we'd have a really good pool of data to look at.
Do speed studies take longer than a month?
No. No, I talked to them, and we're talking August, September timeframe, a couple of weeks. We've, you know, typically they do it Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, middle of the week. Typically they'll do it, you know, they want to have school back in session so that it's the best representation. The one comment I would like to make, though, you know, that road is scheduled to be paved. And you know as well as I know, every time we pave a road, somehow it increases the speed, or there's just some sort of connection there that the road's smoother. And instead of getting complaints to our department about speed bumps and people's vehicles braking, instead we get complaints about everybody's going too fast. And what can you do? Can you put speed humps, speed tables, all sorts of traffic calming measures? So I think this is a really good time. I think if we take and build on the information that has already been assembled, work together with this group, and you know, as we get ready to do the paving, I think it's a really good time to try to come up with collaborative solutions. And again, I'd like to just reinforce, I think the police have to be part of this as well.
I hope this is a model on how we do things in other places on the island, because I think this is going to be repeated in different places. I know the Nene, they're up by the Big Island Country Club, you know, and so, you know, there's just certain areas where the water is and the ponds are and stuff. It's, you know, just lessons learned, and so appreciative that you brought this before us. It's so great to see communities focus on something and bring attention to it. And I want to thank Steve, because I know your group and you are going to focus on this, so appreciate it. I yield.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Evans. Anyone else? Questions or comments? Okay. Director, I'm going to ask you point blank, because I don't think I heard you say you are in support or have concerns about the bill before us, but the proposal is to decrease the speed limit from 30 miles per hour to 25 miles per hour. And it's a pretty long stretch, James Keaukaha Park through Lele'iwi, so 4 Mile to Richardson's, recognizing that there are local IA throughout that stretch of road. Your position on the proposed measure?
Just to be clear, we are supportive of identifying and implementing the right treatments to address the situation at hand, which is obviously lowering the speed and at the same time providing a safer roadway for vehicles, for pedestrians, for Nene, for bicycles. It's been pointed out here that this is a situation that needs to be addressed. So again, my desired path forward is to build on what the group has already put together with our resources and work together. And if lowering the speed is what we all agree on, if lowering the speed and putting speed tables, if more signage, whatever sorts of treatments are appropriate, I think what you'll get me to admit is, yes, this is an issue that needs to be addressed, and I think we all, you know, have a good plan forward.
Thank you, Director. I'm going to ask the introducer of this legislation what she would like to do. I'm hearing there is a desire by Public Works to collaborate with community partners. I do get worried that government has a tendency to study things to death. And I also raise a little eyebrow around the ability for us to get traffic speed studies done within a month. There's a lot that Public Works is handling, and so I just want to make sure that we are able to swiftly respond. And so I'm just going to leave it to Councilmember Leloy to identify how she would like to proceed. But you have a very supportive council.
Thank you, Chair. rocks in hard places. You know, and I really want to thank my colleagues. I think Mr. Pawsey can read the room already, and I would love to just keep marching this along. But I want to give DPW an opportunity to work with our community, because in addition to the speed limits, as was discussed, there are many other traffic calming devices that can be implemented throughout this entire area of Keaukaha. I want to share with my colleagues, we attempted speed humps or speed tables in the past, but that was shot down by fire because it is an ocean recreation area, and they won't be able to respond effectively or efficiently. We have charter schools in the area that use these spaces as outdoor classrooms. And so we do actually have segmented speed reductions along that roadway because of the schools. But as you can see, this area is really emerging as an outdoor classroom / conservation area. And I think this is when we start really planning for the long-range future of that area, and invest our money wisely. As Mr. Pawsey mentioned, they're currently paving the area. And so, Mr. Pawsey, 2 weeks, can I put this on hold a little bit, and you can go talk to your traffic division, and then invite Mr. Lerma and Jordan and Kamiko back into that conversation and help with, because there's other areas on that roadway, as you saw on the map, there's specific nesting areas, and I'm not sure what other type of treatments we could do specifically in that area, and maybe focus some of those resources. Mr. Pawsey.
2 weeks, huh? 2 whole weeks? Yeah, I would commit that within the next 2 weeks, we would collaborate with the folks and traffic and at least come up with a plan so that we come back and we can be a bit more concrete and maybe remove the doubt of the slowness of government that some council members may have.
Just some council members?
No, I think that's a fair thing to come back to you and let you know what it looks like. Again, I've talked to traffic. That August, September timeframe seems to be the sweet spot for us to go out to do our work. Another thing I was remiss in maybe mentioning is, and I think you brought this up, it's the Kaumekemeke School.
Kaumekeka'au.
Thank you. And we have that targeted in our safe routes to school. So that was an area where we were looking at putting flashing signs before and after for reduced speed during school from 35 to 20, along with flashing beacons for that crosswalk. So that is, I don't have the date, but that is on our radar to do, and that may help a little bit, at least for vehicles traveling towards Kings Landing, but that's another project that we have. So yeah, if you give me a couple of weeks, we'll try to tie all this together and come back with something that's a bit more
that really is the goal, right? If we actually have projects planned, maybe reorganizing them to tailor them in all around the same time. I will dedicate right now, I'm not going to take my foot off of this speed reduction at all, because I actually believe this is part of the solution. It's going to be speed reduction along with vertical delineators. It's going to be a crayon box of solutions. And so I don't mind giving the department a real hard place to lean up against, that they need to come back in 2 weeks and come up with a comprehensive solution for this community. I'm always reminded that Keaukaha is very special, but right now it's summer and we get a lot more users, and Ms. Kirkowitz knows this, I say this all the time, because we lost our ocean resources after lava down in Puna, we are seeing tremendous carrying capacities of all of our ocean resources in that area. And now that it's summer, and God bless Mo Messina over at Parks Department, they're rehabilitating all of our beach parks and making them handicap accessible. There is really a lot going on, and I will not take this off the books because I really believe it has a place. So I'm going to be making a motion to postpone Bill 51 to our July 5th, 2023 meeting.
Okay, there is a motion by Councilmember Leloy, a second by Councilmember Inaba to postpone Bill 51 to the July 5th, that's Wednesday, July 5th committee meetings. Any discussion on the postponement? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries with 8 aye votes. Councilmember Keneally E. Kleinfelder is excused. Thank you. There's a motion by Councilmember Inaba, second by Councilmember Galimba to adjourn committee. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries with 8 aye votes. Councilmember Keneally E. Kleinfelder is excused. We are adjourned at 2:37 p.m. Thank you.